on. And we are live, everybody. Welcome to EnCryptid Connections. I'm your host, Kyle, and tonight we have a great guest. This is a surprise guest. I didn't tell anybody about this, so this is a surprise to everybody, and I think it's a good one. Everybody, Mike Paterson from Sasquatch, Ontario. How you doing, Mike?
Good, thanks. Appreciate having me on, Kyle. Good to be here.
I appreciate you being here, man. This is exciting for me. So I like to start right at the beginning. Did you always have an interest in the topic? And if you did or didn't, when did it start?
Before all this happened, I never really followed it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did have an interest. I've always had an interest in the unknown,
Sure.
UFOs, that alien stuff. I've always had an interest in that stuff. This basically started back in 2008, but goes all the way back to my childhood. Really, I had a sighting at 10 years old, and I buried it and forgot about it basically until I got, involved in this back in 2008, and I was basically shown the ropes, and I had a lot of firsthand luck, if you want to call it, because the very first 3 times I went looking for activity, I was given an experience, right? So I think they had their eye on me because I was spending some time in the woods with doing photography, in my time off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were watching, and they liked the way, or liked what they saw, how I was interacting with nature. And that's when, stuff happened. And it's now 14 years. So.
Wow, 14 years. Man, it goes by so fast. Yeah, so you kind of hear this story a lot with a lot of people, right? So a lot of people in this subject matter who are tied to it in some way always had that kind of wanting to seek out the unknown, right? You wanted to know more about the Loch Ness Monster and aliens and UFOs and all those type of things. When I was a kid, that was me. When we went to the library, I went right to those books every time. And I remember when I first saw the Patty picture and was like, oh, what is this thing? So 2008 is when this all started. There's just so much. What was the first? Yeah, there's so much. So tell me about the very first thing that happened to you that let you know that they were there and that they knew you were there.
Well, the first time I went looking for activity, I was with a buddy of mine that lives in Brampton, Ontario, and I actually lived with him for a couple of years. When I was in the thick of this, and I still am, but when I moved in there, he actually got to experience quite a few things. His name's Kyle too, but so the first time I went out, I went camping with him. I've known him for a long time. He's a good friend of mine, and he was very skeptical. And we went out to Bon Echo area of Ontario Northeast, be Lake Mississauga, it's called, and an employer I was working for at the time told me about a camp spot on the far side of the lake, and there's cottages on one side and nothing on the other except just bush, right? So I remember in the morning we heard I'd say it was Sasquatch screaming over and over. It was a bit of a distance, might have been a mile or two, I don't know. And I don't know if that had anything to do with me, if it was showing its presence. It was just an experience that I had of hearing them. And then the next time I went looking for them was I think it was October 25th, 2008. That's when I had my incident, close vocal experience. That's what put me on this path. That's what really opened the door and let me know they were real. I didn't see it, but I sure as hell heard it, and it was close. And when you hear what I heard, you know what it is, and without a doubt, right? And I still spent 2 weeks denying, living in denial. This experience just plays over for as soon as you wake up till the moment you go to sleep, and every second in between. It went on like that for months. I couldn't shut it off, right? So that it was basically that October incident, which was really in a location that I would have never, ever in a million years suspected. Like I always thought one had to go to the West Coast for any experience. I've learned a lot since, about Ontario here. And even once you connect to them, I've learned that they can show up literally anywhere.
Anywhere.
So, yeah.
Yeah, anywhere. I think the common misconception that people have is that that what you said first is something that I think a lot of people thought, especially people who weren't educated about it. When they heard about Bigfoot, they thought it's one creature and it lives in Northern California or like Oregon, and that's it. He roams those forests. You'll never see him, and that's the way it goes. But it's so far from that. So far from that. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And like you said, once you've been tagged, I like to say, they'll come right to you. I mean, we've heard stories about them following people home. Someone has an encounter off in the woods somewhere, miles from their house. Next thing you know, they're in their backyard, and they've kind of embedded themselves there.
Not just their backyard either.
Yeah.
Their abilities allow them to show up inside your home. I've had activity happen in my car now numerous times with witnesses, two different witnesses. One was Dwayne and I making a trip up to his cottage, and we had some weird stuff going on in the car then. And my girlfriend as well has had experience on multiple occasions in her vehicle, and when the two of us have been in there. They have their ways of showing their presence. It's very mind expanding, right? It seems like endless. They know what we focus on, and you grow accustomed to how they tend to show up if given enough experience, which I have been, right. So it's as you know, I speak out loud and clear about their abilities. I have no shame, no no shyness about doing that because of the experience they have given me. Like literally at this point, I don't count, but it's got to be well over 1,000 encounter incidents, right?
Sure.
And I barely had a glimpse. And when I talk about their interdimensional ability and that, I'll say here too, they are flesh and blood. So they are both, right?
Right.
As we are.
Right.
We have abilities as well. So.
Right, and I was talking about this not too long ago on one of the other episodes that there's no coincidence that like when you hear all these stories about different things happening when people go out to look for a Sasquatch, right? So in their mind, they're going to look for a Sasquatch. Maybe they think it's just an animal. And like you said, flesh and blood, but their perception stops there, right? That's it. We're going to go look for this thing. It's either going to be there, or it's not. That's all that's possibly going to happen. And then you have people who have these encounters where they live. There's plenty of evidence. There's structures. There's tracks. You can hear them. Vocalizing, walking around, they're there. And then there's these orbs, right? Or like you talk about, they have the ability to just kind of move and go where they want without, I mean, you're not going to see it. You're not even going to know it's happening. And I'm of the belief that that all these fringe topics, kind of like the aliens, the paranormal, and the Bigfoot, somehow there's something that connects all of them. That's my thought. I don't know what you think. I'd love to hear what you think, or what you know, if you want to tell us.
I've, with their consciousness, their ability to, I think this is how they find us, how they can follow us home, and that, it's all through consciousness connection. They've shown me everything is connected just through their actions. They give a lot of information with their actions. For instance, I was sitting at, this was last winter. I think it was my last visit of the winter, and I was sitting at the table, having a discussion with Dwayne, as we usually do. And I had a cup in my hand, sitting at the table, got my hand on my cup, and I glanced down at it for a second. They knew that. They knew where I was focused. Suddenly, as I was looking at the top of my cup, I heard a marble touch the bottom. And so they showed me, we did not drop this in. We materialized it inside. And I've actually, last visit, Dwayne had this like a kid's toy that you blow bubbles with. It appeared in his hand as we were sitting at the table. He just, they made it appear in his hand. And this happened also with somebody that I was seeing for a while. This was a few years back now, and she'd woken up in the middle of the night with marbles in her hand. And so they've shown me that they can materialize things. It doesn't, I think they could do it inside our bodies if they wanted to,
Oh boy.
It's just, they give a lot of information with small gestures. I've seen marbles appear out of thin air. I've been allowed to see the moment they come through. Or I've been sitting in my car checking my batteries on the recorder, and a marble suddenly hits the window, and I find out that it hit the inside. It's laying on the floor inside. and then after I pick that up, the center console, it's by my right leg. Suddenly a marble lands perfectly in the little change holder there. And it's like, well, that didn't get thrown from outside. They're showing me basically there is no walls here. They can move right through anything, right? And as far as the connection, sorry, I digress, but as far as the connection to ETs and UFOs and that, I was given 2 UFO incidents back in July 2018 that I could tell were put right in front of me, that were for me, the way they happened. So I think because of their telepathic abilities, so they're aware of everything else out there that we're not. So there is a connection going on, because they're of their understanding of energy and how it works. They're absolute masters of energy. I used that term once with Meldrum. He basically ridiculed me for it, so I just kind of laughed. I knew he used to talk about maybe there's small pockets of them in remote mountainous regions. My first experience just blew that apart. So
yeah,
you learn a lot when you get given contact experiences. You have no control over it, at least I don't. They just show up when, where, how they choose.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do think there's a connection there, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and that, like, when you're talking about connections and the telepathic ability and the other stuff, we have that ability, right? Like, there are people who are telepathic. There are people with other abilities that are just, they're mind blowing. But I think so much of that ends up. We lose that connection, right? We've come so far, we've distanced ourselves so far from who we were at one point and our connection to the planet and everything around us, because we have all these comforts and we have technology to do it for us. And so we've lost that for the most part. They obviously didn't, because they've been in that they've been in that environment forever, and so their connection has only grown, if anything. It's amazing when I think about all this stuff. It's just crazy. For people who don't know, these visits started out in 2008. That's what you said, right? And then you've now had it's been 14 years of this, just amazing, incredible stuff that it just blows my mind. I don't even, there's not even a word for it when I see it. When I first saw one of the first videos, it was one of the videos where Neff was talking, and I remember the immediate feeling I got was, oh my God, this is genuine. There's no way that noise, the voice, the vocal tone, all that, there's no way that anyone could fake that. There just isn't. It sounded like he was breathing in while he was talking, like, if that makes sense.
Some of them, some native cultures have called them backwards talkers.
Yeah, right, yeah. But I just remember looking at that video and going, this is the most compelling stuff I've ever seen in this subject matter so far. What about the marbles, though? Because you're not the only one that I see with them leaving marbles or taking marbles, or what do they like? What's the fascination with the marbles?
I don't know. It's just something that they started using to show their presence. It's something easy. It's small. It's a way that they say, "Hey, we're here." I have seen so many marbles come out of thin air, both indoors and out. There's some people out there that think, I'm being hoaxed. Some think I'm a hoaxer. Some have said, oh, he's just being hoaxed. No, I'm not being hoaxed. This is, like I said, over 1,000 encounter incidents. Don't insult my intelligence here. I know what I'm doing. It's actually been 10 years with Neff's family, 14 years. I believe they were basically training me for a few years before they give me a certain situation, because when it did come to me, I had a knowing without even talking to Dwayne the first time. I had as soon as the information came to me, I was like, get me that interview, because I knew something told me I knew, right? And sure enough, I think they picked a bucket of marbles up from somebody's property or something. I don't know. Some of them have been re-gifted, through just leaving marbles for them and stuff, but not even anything remotely close to what they've given. Over the years, I remember at the end of 2015, basically, Dwayne and I think we had about 1,500 between us. And so there's been ongoing visits since, right? Last visit I went, I can't even remember. I think I come home with a half a dozen of them. And this actually happened for the first time. This was really cool. We're sitting at the table, and marble bounced right off the table, right in front of my eyes, and my arm just come around and snagged it out of midair. Right? Dwayne's like, "What? How'd you do that?" But so that was a first. But they've used them just to show presence, right? I got poked in the back that night too. So
crazy.
There's been a lot of physical contact.
Yeah.
That it used to happen outside all the time. And finally, one day I just said, hey, you guys always do this outside. Like, I'll get a poke in the back, or, touched in the shoulder. I've been pat on the head. I've swung my head around really quick a couple times and caught, somewhat of a visual that dissipates instantly. But what was I going to say? The physical contact. So I asked them, I said, you guys always do this outside. Can you do it inside? And that night they did. never happens when I ask, but they do comply and give. They've given a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it's a physical contact that has shown me their invisibility. The indoor stuff, both on location and at home, has shown me their interdimensionality. So when I talk about this stuff, some people say, "Oh, that's your belief." It's not a belief. It's a fact through firsthand experience, and a lot of it, not one or two incidents. This is ongoing, right? So,
And to the people that say, like, they call you a hoaxer or say you're being hoaxed, my retort would be, if any of them knew what you've had to go through over the course of this time, they would know that it probably is just not worth it. And so I can't imagine that if anyone was hoaxing anything, that they would continue to do it with all the BS that you've had to put up with.
yeah, I think most of it's been mainly one individual. I'm not going to name names here, but I caught him red-handed on location. Slander videos, pulled his voice. We pulled his voice out. I got the guy on camera, on film, on location trespassing. So it's mainly one individual who's very obsessed, and the guy. I think he was stalking us at night outside the cottage once. He can't say that publicly because it's a criminal charge, right?
Right.
You can't do that. And he witnessed something that he does not understand, and so he thinks it's one way, but like that last video I put out, I basically showed, hey, Dwayne's right here. There's Neph calling in the distance, and I just pulled a few out of the top of my head. If I dug through my files, I could really get in depth about showing certain things, right? And a lot of the stuff too, there's a vocalization that was June 28th, 2013. It was about 5:30 in the morning. Neph down the end of the road, and he's just letting loose, and he's up and down the scale, and just the power in his voice. And I just laugh at people who think he's the cottage guy, right? It's like, no, man.
No.
Just have some common sense. Use your objective insight, and just don't be biased. Be intelligent about it. I'm here for truth. That's all.
Right.
I don't embellish. I don't embellish at all. I just tell it just like it is, and I tell people, find me a contradiction in a decade of posting. You won't.
Right. And so that's how I approach this whole thing, right? Is like with a completely open mind, because if I was to write off any idea about them, any theory, or if somebody says I've seen them do this, if I don't have the proof otherwise, then aren't I doing a disservice to this whole field? Because if I'm writing it off without proof otherwise, then I'm shutting the door on potential evidence that could be used to learn more about them. So I think that people who just go, oh, that they do what? No, they don't do that. Yeah, that to me is the wrong attitude to have when you're talking about something that's so fringe already. You don't know. We're learning about it, right? And there's certain people who are lucky enough to have experiences like you're having, where they picked you for whatever reason, and for someone to shut you down. This cat's you gotta go, Bubba. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good, man. I know about cats. I got two here myself. So.
For some reason, he picks every time that I go on the computer to do that. For someone to shut you down, it just, it's baffling to me, because there's so many questions and not enough answers. And I just think it's the wrong attitude. I just think it's the wrong attitude to have in this field. If you're really passionate about learning and finding out the truth, then you need to have an open mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of denial in this subject about something that we really don't know about, and most people do not have real experience, like contact experience. You might get a return wood knock or a walk through camp, or you might have a visual and know they exist, but you don't know anything about them or what they're capable of until you are shown by them again and again, basically. So there is a lot of denial. I've seen some people that have been involved in this subject for decades, and they still have that wall up, refuse to believe that they have abilities, that it's just magic, it's ridiculous, it's impossible, you can't do those things. But the fact is, the truth of Sasquatch changes the game, changes our understanding of reality.
Sure.
This is the fact.
Yeah. You know who Snow White Bigfoot is? You know her?
I'm
Angie?
sorry?
Do you know who Snow White Bigfoot is, Angie?
Yeah, I know that name. I've never really watched her stuff, but I know she's got something similar going on.
Yeah, so it is. It's very similar. She has some sort of this relationship with them, right? I would call what you have a relationship, and so she has a relationship with them, and um, the things that happen at her house are very similar. You're talking about during the day when it's light outside. It's a big yard. It's pretty open. There's a garden there, or whatever. But how? Tell me how? If it's light out, windows around the house, you're right inside, and they're somehow coming into the garage and taking things. I mean, if you're talking about a 8, 9, 10 foot tall giant that weighs 500 to 1,000 pounds, I don't know. I'm just kind of, throwing out some numbers here, but how does that thing during the middle of the day then get into the garage without somebody seeing or hearing it? I can't imagine it's just walking in there.
Yep. The first time I said to Dwayne, I think they're invisible. And we had snow on the ground, and there was a few prints that we were checking out, like brand new, fresh prints from Neff, and they just didn't make any sense to me because there's blanket of clean snow everywhere. It's like, okay, where the hell are they? It just didn't make sense. And he thought I was nuts. And, we've come a long way since. So, like I said, the physical contact is, that's enough to show anybody that aspect of their abilities. But yeah, they are absolute masters of energy. They know how to manipulate energy, and
They manipulate people's cameras and stuff when you go looking for them.
yeah.
I mean, you see audio interference, you see video interference, you see battery draining, right?
Any electronics, anything.
Right.
I'm
Right.
talking your phone, your computer, your audio recorders. They've shown me this. It doesn't matter what it is, electronic. They can manipulate it. They've shown me they can put a picture on my camera and they can take it back off if they want.
Yeah, I saw some of that stuff. I have a buddy who does this stuff too, and they were on an expedition in Florida, and some of the stuff that happened to them was mind blowing. Okay, they were getting messages on their phone that were in Morse code, right? A text message coming to their phone from basically no number at all, in Morse code, spelling their names out. I mean,
yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah.
I've had my phone manipulated as well.
Yeah.
I've gotten a voice message from them after joking about it. Dwayne and I were at his cottage one visit. I can't remember. I think it was a text message thing. Just, what you're talking about there, because that's happened a few times. And And I made a joke about, yeah, watch, next we're going to get a voicemail from him. I was joking. And on the way home, I look at my phone, I see the light flashing, and it's like, my sound was on, didn't ring or anything, and there was no information. Usually it might say private number, nothing. It had absolutely nothing. It was just bizarre, never shown up like that before, and said I had a voicemail, and I played it back, and it was vocalization from it.
Yeah, yeah. Thought the same thing that happened to them, except it was they used text instead of voice. Just crazy. That was going back to what you said. You were talking about the time where you said you thought they were invisible. Excuse me, because of the footprints. How many people have you heard over the course of this over the course of your time talk about how they find some tracks, but they just disappear. They just end.
Yeah.
1 track, 3 tracks, 5 tracks, and they end in the middle of the yard in fresh snow. Well, where did they go then?
I've been given literally hundreds of prints from Neff's family, multiple family members, from the big guy who was 20 inches, who's now 21 inches as of last year. Neff's foot, I don't know what size that is at this point, but it grew 4 inches over time. It might even be 18 inches at this point. But there was another individual from the family with an 18-inch print, 15, 14, just right down the line down to infant. And sometimes 4 of them have come in and left a single print, all basically, just to show their presence, right? I've had a 18-inch print that was in front of my vehicle, and this is all in snow. And we had just, we'll come outside, we'll scan the area thoroughly. We've gotten really good at picking out prints, seeing heel marks and that. If sometimes they're a little difficult to see, but so I scanned this area and then look seconds later, and there's an 18-inch footprint that wasn't there seconds earlier. And then we're standing at the side of my car, and Dwayne's scanning around. And he tells me, don't step back because there's a print that just appeared right behind me, that sort of thing, right? So they've shown me, there was one video I took of a trackway that Neff had left years back, and it was the same foot over and over with, I think, about 5 feet in between steps. And I'm trying to figure this out. What the hell? How's he doing that? There's no impact in the snow. So he's not hopping, because they're clean. And then, after time, I realized it's like, oh, he's walking normal. He's just choosing to show that footprint. So they do that purposely to show their presence. And they just love to mess with us, right?
So
always
funny.
messing.
It's funny. I mean, I laugh because it's funny. It's like a playful puppy or something. You know what I mean? So Neff, to me, that's like that's some of the coolest stuff that I've ever seen and heard. Is his vocalizations and his relationship with you, where he says your name and he'll draw for you and leave you messages or drawings and stuff. What was the first interaction that he gave to you?
When it started, I was putting up trail cams, doing the wood knock thing, and I remember I had my car parked there. There was this little plastic ice cream toy, like the top of an ice cream thing, little plastic thing, and it was placed on the back of my car. And I remember the feeling I got when I saw that. I was kind of mind blown because I knew it was them. And I don't, they showed their presence the very first night I was there. I had set up my tent down the road. I didn't realize I was on somebody else's property when I did this in the woods. But anyways, that first night, Dwayne was there with his father at the cottage. His dad passed years ago. but he was there for a lot of our visits. And so I went in and I talked to the two of them. And then that night, I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, I walked up the road to step into the woods to go to my tent. And I remember I just had this crappy dollar store LED flashlight, barely cut a few feet in front of me. That was about it. So this was in the woods, and it's the only time I've seen this, but I saw an orange eyeball lit up like there was a light turned on in its head. And I think it was peeking out from behind a tree because I just saw one. And I turned around, I walked back to the cottage, and I crashed on the couch that night. I was a bit too freaked out, right? But I didn't chicken out like I did that night. But, I came back, obviously, and I had to work through a lot of fear in that, right? But that's probably about one of the first things that happened back then.
You hear people talk about that their eyes look like they have some sort of light behind them, that they're not just reflecting light, that there's some sort of ambient light inside them that shines outward. I've seen eye shine before, and eye shine doesn't look like there's a light behind the eye. That's a totally different thing. So I think for people try to make that argument like, oh no, you're just seeing eye shine. Like, give people some credit. I love how people try to dismiss these things, the naysayers, and try to make people feel like they're crazy or they're dumb. It's like, how many crazy people do you think there are in this world? Because there's how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of sightings and encounters and experiences where you're hearing the same things over and over. There can't be that many crazy people. There just can't be.
Yeah, these folks they live in denial, and they're really just a detriment to the subject because they're not giving anything to help understand matters. But it's expected with this, right?
Sure.
I just want to, while I remember, there was an incident Dwayne had told me about years back. This is before one of the stories he told me, after I got invited in. So he was out with his girlfriend at the time. They were on a snowmobile, and they had a pair of red, glowing, disembodied eyes keeping up with them, following them on the trail, like keeping up with them. And he's flying on a snowmobile.
That's it. To me, that's not even that crazy, because I've heard people talk about how fast they move. When they want to take off or whatever, it's like a blur. So they say it's like the Tasmanian devil when he hits that tornado spin. They can haul. Their physical prowess is one of the craziest things to me. That their physical capabilities are just as crazy as the other capabilities. The strength, the quickness, the way they move like they're just gliding along. There's no effort at all when they're walking away. It's like they're on a conveyor belt almost, is what it looks like. And I think that one of the biggest disservices that's being done by not allowing or the people who are in power trying to keep this hidden is they could be our closest relatives. I mean, you know what I mean? They could be our closest relatives on the planet. They could be kin to us. And now you're talking about, I was talking about with Mark Zasky. Now it's a humanitarian issue, because you're basically ignoring a species that we are related to. What do you think about that? What's your feelings on all that?
As they have told me, some humans, not all, I don't, some humans have their DNA. So that makes them our relatives.
Right.
They're older, they're wiser, they're smarter, they're faster, they're stronger. They're built for the earth, and human ego tends to put us on a pedestal, right? And I think there are some in power who do not want this knowledge known.
Mm-hmm.
You have to rewrite the books, when this all comes out. It's been suppressed. they are a threat to dark, evil humans that are, manipulating us from all angles, with their understanding of consciousness. And it seems that there are no secrets that can be hidden from them. They know things that are going on, this whole thing that's been going on the last few years. They're well aware of that. And they know they know more in depth than humans do. They know what's going on more with humans and the earth than humans do, right? It just seems that they know what's going on behind closed doors. To what level, I don't know, but they hide from us for a good reason. I believe, as they've told me, there are some trying to eradicate them. They want them wiped out. So who knows the real reason why? Like, I've barely had a glimpse in 10 years. I've had over 1,000 encounter incidents and barely a glimpse. I don't know why. Perhaps there's a reason, like a good reason on their end why they're not showing themselves yet. Like, I clearly know what Neff's face looks like. So if he showed up in front of me, it still freaked me out. But at least I have an understanding of what his face looks like anyways.
Could you describe it for us?
He's black, black skin, black eyes, not a lot of hair on his head, good teeth.
Blocky teeth?
His what's that?
Block teeth?
No,
like no. Square or fangs?
Square, I'd say square. Not, I don't know an open mouth, but from what I see, looks human, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Between human and ape, his nose is not the same as ours. Closer to an ape, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully one day they'll let the world see. But I think certain things are held back. They've written not yet, because I asked them about certain things they've given, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
a time and a place.
Right. When I was talking to Mark, he his place in Florida that he does his research at, it's a very unique environment. Whereas he was explaining to me that when Florida was built up, it was built up from the shoreline in, because obviously all that land around the water is what everybody wanted, and so they were forced to kind of move inland to the center of the state. And as more and more of their territory was encroached upon and taken down, they were forced into a much smaller area than they normally would be in. And that's different from where you are, where there's so much vast open wilderness and land for them to inhabit and hide and stay out of the view of people if they want to. But I worry about what would happen if they continued to do this in a place like that. And I'm sure there's probably other places that are similar. It can't be the only one. What would happen if they continued to force their way in, and then these things have nowhere to move to, except I just don't want to think about what the repercussions of that could be, because I just don't think it would be good. And this is why I believe that the importance of the truth coming out and putting bills in place to protect the areas. I mean, it's no coincidence that so many of the national parks and stuff have so many encounters and occurrences and experiences. I feel like they know it's a safe place for them. You can't carry a gun in there. Very remote, has everything they need. They're intelligent. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to see that. And just those things alone should make people think that, you know, these things are a relative of ours. But there's just too much, like, in my opinion, to whether it's money or power or what, you know, the logging industry, I think, would take a huge hit if they protected these things, because then you can't cut down the trees, and that's a lot of money for a lot of people. But like you said, the books would have to be rewritten. Everything they would taught us would be a lie. And you know, how do you get around that?
Yeah,
That you
the logging industry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There
No,
was a
you're good. Go
glitch.
ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
The logging industry, they know they exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just slashing and clear cutting as fast as they can, it seems. You know, out in the West Coast, it's just horrible what they're doing. They're just wiping out all the old growth forest. And personally, I think part of it is being done on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
encroaching on, you know, wiping out their habitat. There are some really nefarious humans out there that are manipulating on a global scale. You know, it's pretty easy to see with the shit show going on. And you know, this is all part of this great awakening. You know, humans are finally waking up and they're seeing what's going on, right? The Sasquatch have shown me through countless incidents, it seems that they can read my thoughts, because their response time on certain things that have happened, it's incredible. It's like, how did you respond so fast? Like, I was barely done that thought, and you responded. So like sitting in a chair once, and I had my hands cupped in my lap, and I put an image. I didn't say anything. I just put an image of a marble dropping into my hand. That happened as soon as I put the image in my head. You know, when they do things like that, it's like, oh, okay, you can see my thought, read my thought, whatever. So their intelligence is beyond human.
Yeah.
You know, they are human. I've asked them, "Are you human?" They wrote, because I've had a lot of written communication, dozens of drawings and answers to questions, that sort of thing. When I asked, "Are you human?" they wrote Y/N, so yes and no.
Yeah. So they're a little bit of each, basically. Maybe something else.
There's something else, but I don't know what.
They sorry, I'm getting distracted. Cats all over the place, man. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no.
That whole thing where they write you these messages and stuff, like so they obviously understand our language. Like, if you were to, like, if somebody were to go into where they are and speak, they would understand you? I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually gave me an experience once, years back, of I had just woken up, so my mind was fresh. They like to get you when you just wake up, or you're in that theta stage, almost falling asleep, right? Because you're detached from your conscious mind, basically. I think it's easy. And I was given this image of dozens of them walking across an open meadow, all in the same direction. And it was followed by the words, "Soon your people will know." And when I got that message, to me, it basically showed that your people are going to know about us, basically. And that's what's been happening since. But when I got those words, there's a clarity, undeniable clarity, no doubt what was being conveyed. And the words, I realized, were not spoken. I had felt them. So I had asked them about that not too long ago. First I asked them, "Do you understand all my words?" They said yes. I said, "Do you feel the meaning? Is that how you understand them?" And they wrote yes. So I could understand that, because I've asked them about language. What language do you speak? Do your people speak? They wrote all. So it seems to me that language is no barrier with them. They might not know the English meaning of all words, right? But they understand the context and what's being stated or asked or whatever.
Do you think that it's possible for somebody to foster a relationship with them similar to yours, or do you think that they have to pick you purposely? I mean, do you think like if somebody continued to go to an area where they were, and you know their intentions were pure and they went with good positive energy all the time, do you think that there's a possibility that they could foster some sort of relationship similar to what you have with the troop that's out there?
I would think so. I don't know, but I would think so.
Yeah.
As long as you got all the right stuff, they might they don't move quick, so it's
Right.
something that you have to persist with, and you never know. Like you could go in there once, go home. They might follow you home and be checking you out without your knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could, who knows how long that could go on for, you know, while they try to get a good understanding of you as an individual. But yeah, I believe that's very possible.
And do you know, are there are they all the same? Are there negative ones? Are there bad ones? Or are they just all this way with these really pure intentions?
It seems that there's some that just despise humans, which I would tend to think anyways, because they
Yeah.
see what we do. We've poisoned everything. We've destroyed everything. We're just, we're a shit stain on this earth. We're, it's just disgusting. We leave a wake of destruction, right? So
Yeah.
I tend to think some of them want nothing to do with humans, and maybe those are the ones that are way out in the middle of nowhere that you'll hopefully never run across. And then there's the ones that are close to us that come into rural areas, or even into the outskirts of cities and stuff. And those are the ones that watch us and teach their children about us, and they're the ones that aren't gonna, I believe anyways, that they're not gonna harm us.
Yeah.
Their intentions are towards us.
Yeah. They're for the
Yeah,
most. What's that?
I'm just guessing though, so I don't know. I'm just
Sure. Yeah. Um, they, for the most part, when you talk to people who've had an encounter, even if it's been a rather stressful one, or where they've shown some sort of aggression. And when I say aggression, I mean not physically harming anybody. I just mean like showing that they weren't happy that you were where you were when you probably weren't supposed to be. Um, even those, they don't turn out bad. You get the shaking of the tree, you get them yelling, you get them showing their teeth, that stuff. But you never really, and maybe it's because the people disappear, I don't know, but you never really hear that it goes further than that. So for the most part, they seem passive. They seem like a curious, passive species of whatever it is. What do you think about the Nephilim theory?
well, first I just want to say I think that there's likely laws among their people in what they can do to humans, and there's no lies among their people because of their telepathic ability. It's just impossible. So I think that well, as far as the Nephilim goes, I get this all the time too, because of the name Nephitia. At first, I remember I spelt it Nephatia, and for forever I just, Nephitia, Nephilim. People just, their brainwashed minds associate that name with that. Right? So I spell it now Nef. It makes no difference. So, but from my understanding, the Nephilim were red-haired giants,
Right.
double rows of teeth, 6 digits. That's not Neph's family. So I don't know if there's any lineage there, any affiliation. I have no idea.
Yeah, I never really bought into that for that reason. Like you talked about, red-haired giants, 2 rows of teeth. It didn't fit. It just didn't fit. I don't think they're the only thing out there that's unknown or uncategorized. I think there's other things out there like them, but not them. There's probably other types of giants that are out there. I mean, you hear stories about that, and it'd be foolish of us to believe that this is the only thing out there that we don't know about. I mean, that's that ego coming in again. Oh, we have to know everything. We've been here. We rule this planet. We know it all.
Yeah, there's a lot of folklore out there, and I believe there's a lot of truth in that folklore. The little people, the dog man, I believe that's where the werewolf lore comes from.
Yep.
So there's a lot of stuff written throughout antiquity that depicts different kinds of beings. And so there's been a couple of stories out of the area where I visit, and I believe it has to do with the energies there, because there's a lot of minerals. It's not too far off from basically the capital of Canada as far as minerals go. Most of the minerals can be found in a certain area, but there's been a couple of stories from 2 different sources I've gotten out of there of thunderbird type birds, 15-foot wingspans, and one involved basically a flock of them, and the other one involved 4 babies, I guess you'd call them, that I was told were about 4 feet tall in a tree, with skin like scales, I was told. So these came from 2 different sources, and it's right out of the area where I investigated. I'm hoping to get a sighting of this at some point. Something comes out through a veil, right? Like I've been shown there is a invisible veil that surrounds us. I've been shown again and again, right? It's right there. They're listening, watching. To what extent, I don't know, but we are surrounded by. It could even be a mirrored dimension. I don't. Through certain things that I've been shown, that I've witnessed, backwards writing. It's like, why is that backwards? Maybe it's a mirror, or I've in drawings where it looks like it's been mirrored, that sort of thing. So I don't really know anything about it. I've been asking them, I want to learn how to do what they do, right? So,
yeah.
But anyways, my point being is some of the other stuff that is been witnessed, and some of that has happened in the area that I frequent. And I also believe I may have had. I went to visit Mendocino National Park years back with a friend of mine, Sonia, and we went way down into this gully, valley, whatever, and it was so dry. It was scary dry, just waiting to go up in flames. And so that night it was so dead still, and I had a recorder outside the tent. I remember I got woken up at some point in the middle of the night by a crystal clear snarl that sounded right there. And I remember I woke up. It was weird because I wasn't even scared, but it was such a scary sound. It was like, that's not Sasquatch. It had a snarl to it, like could have been a dog man. I don't know, but it was telepathic. I found out it was telepathic. There was nothing on the audio. It was very real. And I remember thinking, oh, that's going to be on the audio, right on. Go back to sleep, with the sound of something that sounds like it's just going to shred you, right?
Sure.
So there's definitely other things out there that besides Sasquatch.
There's a lady that had an encounter that get always stuck with me, where she talked about how this one showed itself to her, and when it did, she said that she immediately had the first feeling that she had was fear, because she was staring at this giant, right? This giant hairy monster. She said it took about a second or two, and that fear dissipated. She said there were no words spoken, but she felt the communication. She could feel it, like you talked about. And this Sasquatch told her, and through whatever that communication is, mind speak or telepathy, that she was going to be fine. He was not going to harm her. And then he gave her these messages. I don't remember the messages, so I'm not going to try to repeat them, but they were similar to the stuff that you talk about, that your people are ruining this planet, and at some point we're going to show ourselves. And it's just it's sad to think about, that these things are such an incredible being, and they feel like they have to hide because of what we're doing. It's just sad.
I don't even know if it's because of what we're doing. I believe that a big part of it may have to do with, some evil behind the scenes going on that is trying to wipe them out. I think they hide more from them. A hunter comes into the woods, or anybody packing a gun, they know what you got on you.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to show it. They know. As far as their telepathy goes, it can show up, I've learned, in different forms through feeling and that, but they can also give full on mind speak that is just loud and clear. The first time it happened to me, I was asleep on the couch at home. This is back in 2013, and they grunted. I was given a grunt that was so loud, man. It just shot me to my feet. I was asleep, right? And I just jumped right to my feet instantly. Got on the phone to Dwayne. He's like, "Holy shit, man! You wouldn't believe what just happened." So, yeah, the first time that happened, and another time, I remember I was feeling kind of down this day. I was working, and it was in the morning, and I'd stopped off for a break at my place. I had some driving gig, and I'd been reaching out to Neph through telepathy, right? And so didn't respond. Never happens when I do it, but later on, so I'll go home, I'm sitting at my computer, and suddenly I hear his voice call my name, and it's in my head, and it's distant. It was kind of weird, but as soon as he did it, I got these bangs in my apartment, just bang, 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 like really loud, a whole bunch of them. And I was like, what the hell? That never happened. I'd been there for 8 years. That never happened before. So just the timing of his voice, and there's a lot of impossible that they can do. I have this like a container of marbles up on the shelf there, and it has a shell from the sea on top that covers the whole thing. And there's maybe just barely a gap underneath. Like the marbles are probably touching the inside top.
Yeah.
And one time I was looking at it, it was on my fireplace. This has happened twice. It's happened on a desk sitting beside my computer while I was sitting there, and sitting on a mantelpiece. And both times the same thing. And it sounded like a marble dropped and hit the pile of marbles on top. But it's impossible because there's a shell there, blocking everything, right? And it's just like, what the heck? They can do a lot of impossible, as most humans would think. So it's pretty wild to witness, this continually.
It's amazing. What's some of the stuff that's been going on lately? Like you said, there's the ongoing stuff. Can you tell us some of the stuff that's been continually going on?
Well, I had a recent incident I go to a place where I pitch my tent, which actually, like I mentioned, I'm going there today. And this was a couple visits back. I was by myself. I tend to run several audio recorders, strategically place them. One I put in the woods that they tend to hang out at a lot, because I'll get sometimes 5-6 hours of crack, snap, rock clack sounds, all in the same spot, right near the audio recorder, audio mics, all night long, right? Just
Yeah.
periodic throughout the night. It's just constant. So it's easy to see it's them. It's like, that's not something dropping from the tree, those big cracks. So anyways, that visit, I was laying in my tent. I can't remember what time it was. It was dark. I laying in my tent, and suddenly I heard foot stomps. And at first I thought it was them. Suddenly something stomping the ground. This is 32, 35 paces from my tent, just slightly downhill in the woods, far enough away that I don't hear most of what goes on there, but it's a spot where they're comfortable to hang out. And I'd actually taken somebody in there not long ago, and I showed them my little spot there where I put my audio, and I didn't set up my audio yet. And we're sitting there having a conversation where I got my tent, and suddenly he's talking, and I start hearing knocks, kind of woodpecker type knocks, but they were coming right from right there, and I stopped him and listen. And so he caught the tail end of the knocks, and then seconds later something big is moving through the brush right there. So, and then we had walking through camp after that. But this other more recent visit, so I start hearing these foot stomps, and then I hear a snort. And what's funny was I'd never heard snorts before from a deer until maybe a month prior, right here in my backyard. Sitting back there with my girlfriend late at night, and it was dark, and suddenly I hear a couple of foot stomps, and turn my light on. There's a deer, maybe I don't know, maybe 100 feet away or so, and it ended up giving a few snorts, which I recorded. Got a good recording of it. So I'm at my spot where I like to pitch my tent in this area, and I get these foot stomps, and they were louder, much louder, and the snorts were huge, and they were really close to the audio. So when I played back the audio, I didn't, I was concerned that I was maybe in the way. I didn't want to get trampled or something, right? Even though I couldn't see what was going on. I realized after the fact, when I'm listening back to the audio, that it had nothing to do with me. I had lots of stick breaking going on at that recorder just minutes before that. So that means I had one of Neff's family right there. So I basically recorded, I'm quite convinced, I recorded an interaction between a deer and Sasquatch. So that was phenomenal. And after the fourth snort, I had an air horn. So I give it a short blast, and it dispersed everything. And I could hear the deer snorting, as it left a whole bunch more times. But shortly after that, this confirmed to me that I believe it was a younger individual. I think he's about a 15-year-old in Neff's family, a male. His name's Mushka. And so we had last year, we had a couple of incidents where I was shown smells sitting at the table. And I swear I had a streamlined, direct, right up my nostrils smell of both farm animal crap and dog crap. Two different smells, right? It was putrid, man. And Dwayne's sitting 3 feet away from me. He's not smelling a damn thing, nothing. And I'm yelling, like, "You can't smell that! Like, come on, man!" And it switched. Then they switched. That happened at his cottage. So I digress. I go back to this incident with the deer going on. So shortly after giving my the little blast from my horn, I get and it's dead still. I get it was 2 little brief incidents of the smell of dog shit. So I was shown that I think when I blasted that horn, I probably freaked out the young guy, because he didn't expect that. It's loud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably startled him. And so he come by to, like, hey, dude, like, don't do that, man, right? And give me that little crap smell. He did it twice. I spoke to him. I said, okay, I know who's there. I know it's you. No sound, just the smell, right? Just briefly to let me know, because they can move right up on us on a dead still night without us knowing, unless they want you to know.
Sure.
That was,
couldn't have given you a better smell.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Trust me, I've mentioned it.
So for those people who don't know and haven't seen some of your videos, how many people are there in Neff's family?
I don't know. There's at least a half a dozen. We've gotten a bunch of names over the years. I think seven names, or might even be 9. I can't remember. There's at least a half a dozen. It's funny. I've never, sometimes I've sat there and tried to figure out, okay, there's this, that, and this. But I don't know the real actual number. There's a handful for sure.
Yeah. Seems that way. The handprints on the car and the prints in the snow and all that stuff. There's a few of them. What's the deal with the pictures on the camera? Like, what is that? What are they showing?
I get a lot of on my videos, where I put those pictures. I'm actually kind of starting to put out videos to get more in detail and explain certain events that have happened throughout the years, because I put a lot of stuff out there with not much explanation, so people just say, oh, more blurry pics and that. It's like, no, you don't understand, man. Those blurry pics are from them. They put the images on the camera. And I've sat there, actually I think I got that camera right. Yeah, I guess I don't. I've sat there I bought a point and shoot camera specifically for them to play with. And it started, I think it probably started outdoors. And it ended up, I put a sketch pad, a chalkboard, camera, all this stuff on the kitchen table. And I get a lot of interaction using that. So there have been times where I've been sitting at that table. Dwayne and I are right there having a conversation. My other arm here, they're within reach. There's the camera sitting right there, never leaves my sight. And I keep checking it, and images appear. So we've been given literally dozens of images. And I can see that they do show themselves. There's just no clarity with it, right? It's, everything's basically blurred. Just something they can do, showing that there's a video called is it the Afterlife Experiments, or the Skull Experiments? It basically a 5-year study by science into the paranormal, and thought photography was part of that, where they took back in the day when they were using film canisters, and this brand new film canister put in a locked box, under controlled conditions, and basically ending up with images, put on through thought, right? So I don't know, Sasquatch, they have this understanding of energy. Like I've said many times, they are masters of energy. They truly are, with what I've witnessed anyways.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. And you can go down the rabbit hole and you continue asking question after question after question, and not find the answers that you're looking for, or that most people want. I think is probably part of the problem. People want certain answers, and if they don't get them, then they're like, oh, well, then I'll find them somewhere else, because you obviously don't know what you're talking about. But there's just no denying when you have evidence like you've had over the course of these years. It's just, you can't deny it, and I don't understand why people continue to try to. It does such a disservice to the field and to them. It does a disservice to them. If you really care about what go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny how many people have commented to me of what a disservice I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
giving research a bad name, and I just laugh at them, and I'm like, man, you don't have a damn clue.
But the same people will believe in ghosts, right? If they'll go into a house that's haunted and believe it's haunted, they believe in a God that they can't see, right?
Yeah.
And they believe in the power that God or Jesus Christ has, but you can't believe that this stuff can be real. It's just kind of baffling to me, It's baffling.
When you've had so much contact experience given from them, it really does expose how brainwashed humans are.
Right.
We are, all of us, to a certain level.
Sure.
I look at a PhD at this point as just some conformity stuck inside this little box that just you got this piece of paper, for your human ego to say you're better than everybody else, you know more. But in actuality, when it comes to certain stuff like this subject, science knows nothing
Nothing.
really. They know they
All,
exist. That's about it.
all those guys are doing is learning how to learn the way that they're told to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not really and that's a sad thing too. If you're a scientist or a biologist or an anthropologist, you would think that you'd be getting into the field because you want answers to things, right? And you're just satisfied with what those books tell you, and that's as far as you go. I mean, that I don't know. I think that's not your duty. Your duty is to dive in and research every different theory and piece of evidence, and unfortunately the academics and stuff, they just shut it down, and then you have a couple that try to. I don't know Dr. Meldrum. I've never spoken to the man. I know different people have different views on him. um, uh, from where I'm sitting, all I can see is what I've been shown, and I feel like for me it's like, well, at least he tried something. And again, I may be wrong because I don't know him. I've never had firsthand experience with him. Bindernagel, to me, seemed like a pretty solid guy, and I feel like he didn't take cues from the academic world with what to believe in and what was real and what wasn't. Um, there needs to be somebody who's going to come forward and have the integrity to go, I'm not going to just take what you're telling me or what the people in power are telling me to say and to believe in as gospel. And I'm going to figure it out on my own. But I guess there's just too much risk involved for them.
Yeah, there's John was very supportive. I
Yeah.
actually I gave him a lot of my experiences at the time. I sent him a disc with a whole ton of audio clips. Sent him a cast, which was actually laser scanned by him, Meldrum, and Les Stroud on television. I didn't know they were going to do that.
That was you? That was yours? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Neff's foot back then. I don't think Meldrum knew where it came from, because since I've interacted with him a little bit since, and I'm definitely far from impressed. I'm just like,
Mm.
knocking down everything I showed him, right? And I just thought, man, you don't know shit, buddy. Sorry. It's John was very, like I said, John was supportive, and Dmitry Bayanov, he was director of science for the Darwin State Museum in Moscow. He wasn't on any social media or anything. He passed a few years back, but
Yeah.
or a couple of years back, and he was involved since 1964 in the subject. So,
Wow.
he was involved a lot with Meldrum and Bindernagel, and John had told me one time, I wish I saved the emails because I wiped all my emails clean years back. I was paranoid of being hacked, and which actually happened recently.
Yeah, I heard that.
But yeah, somebody trying to hack several of my accounts. 2 accounts were hacked. My Facebook got shut down, and this is just an ongoing thing that never stops. There's always people, harassing or slandering or whatever. I just push through it, right? John had stated to me years back. He said, and these were his exact words. He said, "You're so far ahead, it's a problem." And he wanted me to tone it down about the interdimensional stuff, about their abilities. And Dimitri asked the same, and I politely refused on both accounts because I said, you guys are doing your thing, I'm doing mine. If I was to wait for science, I'm just I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do what I do. John said, I'd be much more supportive if you toned it down about the abilities, and I appreciate that, John, but I can't. I'm just whatever. Too little, too late for science, as far as I'm concerned.
Plus, isn't it? Do you feel a level of like it's your responsibility since they chose you to have this relationship with? Is there that feeling like I have a responsibility now to let everybody know about this?
Yeah, when they started giving me as much evidence as they have, I just want to stand on a mountaintop and scream this to the world and wake everybody up, right?
Yeah.
I'm very, I was gifted from them, and I'm able to see what's going on in this world. I think I have some good intuitive skills, and it's pretty blatant for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, from what they've given me, they know what I do with it. They know I speak out. There's been numerous incidents that have happened to folks who I've just spoken with on the phone, and suddenly they start having activity happen, or like I can't believe how many times that's truly happened, right? So they show me that they're listening, they're watching, and I got nothing else to do, right?
Right.
At this age, at this age in life, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm just tired of this bullshit rat race, broken, corrupt system. And this is a, slice of hope for the human race. It really exposes a much broader spectrum of reality, and it does. It gives humans a ray of hope. So,
I agree.
it's yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, you said it. Definitely a ray of hope. Actually, I meant to tell you, Mike, Long Island Bigfoot. He said to make sure that he said hello when we were doing this.
Mike's very supportive.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a very good guy. He's been very supportive to me too. So, you can send them my way. If you said that people you talk to on the phone, like they'll show up there. Tell them to come here, because I have no problem if they come here and show me the same stuff. I'll stand up and say it too. I got no problem doing that. I just I am a complete believer in the fact that anything is possible. The government has proven to us that they've lied to us about so many things for so long. The UFOs are just one, right? And they did it for so long that when it came time to tell us, oh, they're real, nobody even blinked an eye. because they had done it for years and years and years and years, where they would slowly, you know, add a little bit more. Oh, there might have been a crash at Roswell. Oh, maybe not. Oh, there was one out here. Oh, maybe not. Oh, there's some lights over Illinois. And then there's movies, and then there's, you know, toys, and so there's little bits of things that they feed you over time to desensitize you to it. And then they go, you know, whatever year it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, oh, by the way, they're real. Nobody was like, oh my God, they're real. Nobody even blinked an eye at that. It was like, whatever. And I feel like almost people forgot about it already. You know, it's just not a thing. And it's, I wonder if it's going to be the same with these things, or if this is something completely different. If this will never be something that they want known.
Yeah, well, you know, Sasquatch are terrestrial, right? This is their home. Earth is their home. It's a little different than the UFO thing, although there is a connection. There are cases where they've been seen coming and going from UFOs, and but I don't watch any television shows on this anymore. But I do know that some of them have touched on the, you know, the paranormal aspect of their existence. They haven't really delved deeply into it, from what I understand. But you know, that's going to change at some point. Just you know, we have to collectively, you know, make those steps to get there. Because right now, just, you know, television's all about ratings and dollars. They don't care about the truth, right? They just want the shock factor and this and that to you know, get for their bottom line, right? It's really never been about truth. Hopefully that changes at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to see that ever changing. You know, it's been going on for so long, and I feel like it just gets worse and worse, man. Even since I was a kid, this world is just so much different. It's so much more phony and fake, and the things that are supposed to matter just don't matter. And you know, that's why, like you said, that sliver of hope. If there was any thought that you know, that stuff could change, and we could understand more about them and how they live, and maybe adapt that way of thinking, and you know, it'd be amazing. It really would be amazing. This community, unfortunately, is so divided on so many topics. It's hard to see that ever happening too, you know. And I think that's just, I don't even know what to think about it. I feel like, what does it hurt to accept, you know, what somebody's telling you as truth? Especially when you weigh the pros and cons of it all. It's like I said, you know, you're having people hacking your accounts and your emails and all this stuff. Like, to me, it wouldn't seem like it would be worth it anymore. You said you're in your 50s. Like, who the hell wants that? You know, who wants that stress and that you know, that BS? I'm sure you don't, and I'm sure it wouldn't be worth sitting around and making up, you know, silly stories. I'm a supporter, and I'll say it flat out. I'm a supporter. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I don't care what they say. I was nervous. I've been nervous this whole time because I'm such a supporter, and it's, you know, it's kind of one of those things when you finally get the opportunity to talk to somebody that you value their thoughts and their opinions and what they bring to the table so much. I've been kind of a mess through this whole thing.
Oh, it's all good, Kyle. It's all good, man. I'm just some normal, down to earth guy, really.
No, I know. It's just, you know, for me, it was a big deal to have you on, and I know that you know, I'll probably have some people in my comment section that I haven't had yet when I post this video. I say bring it. You'll just get kicked off. That's all. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not going to deal with it. like I said, I try to welcome just about everybody, unless you're some person who, unless you're just some bad person who has nothing to offer and you're going to be a jerk and all that stuff. Then no, I don't have any room for you on this podcast. But otherwise, I'm open to hear just about anything anybody has to say, and I definitely was open to hear what you had to say. I was excited to talk about it, and I think that more people need to open their minds to it. I think it would change things dramatically if they did.
I appreciate that. And these people that whatever harass and this and that, they got to realize that all they're doing is driving me to push harder, because I'm not going away.
Right.
I don't care what they throw at me. I'm not going away. This is I'm stronger than they are.
Right.
Then them and their little army of minions. It's I'm not going away. But I think that might be a big part of why I am given so much as well, because I have no fear of speaking out, of sharing my experiences. In fact, I think sometimes Neff's family, they probably had some good laughs. Like, okay, let's see if he tells this one publicly, right?
Right.
Sasquatch. Yeah. So I remember I posted a picture way back of something really blondish, hairy, indoors, and there was paneling, paneled walls and that. And I remember Dwayne saying, "You're going to post that? You're going to take a heap of BS for that." And I said, "Yeah, I know, but it's real. It's true. So yeah, I don't care, man. I'll post it. I don't care, because I'm there, experiencing it firsthand. I'm a smart enough guy. I know what's going on. I'm not, there's no manipulation. There's nobody's fooling me. I'm right there getting physical contact, or a vocal right beside me, or, even sometimes right in my ear, get a tongue cluck right in the ear, or, the orbs out of, out of the air. And I brought in witnesses as well. Right. So I have numerous witnesses to this.
Right. And,
there was Chris. Yeah.
What I go back, I just go back to that. Like some of this stuff is just, to me, it's so impossible. It would be so impossible to fake. Like how would he do these things? How would he fake some of these things? I just, like a little critical thinking goes a long way, guys. That's all I have to say.
Some of the vocalizations, I get people saying, "Oh, well, it's just a human talking. It's within the human range." Yeah, there is a lot of the stuff within the human range. They are human types. They're not always yelling and screaming. Sometimes they're whispering, or sometimes, and everything in between. And I've recorded Neff whispering at right near my microphones when there was neighbors. This is way back. He knew to keep his voice down. It's very consistent, lack of contradiction, very consistent. Anybody with an objective mind, critical thinking skills, good intuition, developed, and that sort of thing, it's a no-brainer, really.
I said this not too long ago. My bullshit meter's pretty good. I would say it's it's pretty top notch, and there's nothing about you that makes me feel or think that you're doing anything but telling the truth. And I hope other people can see that at some point if they don't see it already. It's just it's open up a whole new door of thinking and and what we know about these things. If they could just use a little bit of if they could just open up a little bit, instead of being so closed off. There's just you're not a nutcase. I can tell you that. I've worked with crazy people before. You're not one of them.
No.
And you seem very genuine. And so, I like I said, I'm a supporter. I don't have any problem saying that out loud.
I appreciate that, Kyle. Thanks. Um, you know, just lost my train of thought there. Putting this stuff out there when I first started doing it, I took so much bullshit,
Yeah.
and it's come a long way. So the support has really grown over the years, and it's a lot of support at this point. When I post a video now, it's just amazing how much supportive comments there are, and I still get the um, odd negative one thrown in there, and I tend to. I don't delete all negative comments, but if they're basically attacking me or they're just being a dick, then I'll delete and block them, right? And they'll
Yeah.
go whatever, crying to somebody else that I just erase comments and this. But for the most part, if somebody comes at me with a just difference of opinion, as long as it's done in a respectable way, I'm right there with them to sit there and have a conversation about it. Um, as long as people are respectable, that's all it takes, really.
Yeah, that's a great point. Difference of opinion is okay. We can differ on what we think and what we feel. Um, it's we don't have to agree on everything, but it's that venomous attitude when it comes to this stuff that's really just it's not needed. It's not needed. And I'll say this: since I started this, which it's very new still, so I'm still kind of finding my feet. But I'll tell you what, the amount of support has been amazing across the board. When I had mentioned, I said I spoke to Mike. He said he was willing to do the show. The amount of people that said, "Oh my God, like we can't wait till he comes on." There was not one negative comment. There wasn't one. So I'm hoping that this community is starting to sway the other way. Like you said, if you're getting more and more support now, that's a good thing, man. That's a good thing. We can open more eyes to this and get more people to understand that there's just more out there than what you think.
It's been it's been a long time, and I've seen this whole subject develop and progress. And people are opening up and being more receptive to Sasquatch having these abilities. Some people will still think that, oh, they're not interdimensional, they're flesh and blood. When in actuality, no, they're both.
Right.
Right. So there's, like I said, the support has been great. I'm very much appreciative of how much people have come around, and I knew it would happen. I just have to persevere, because truth is truth. You can't stop it, and there's more and more, a growing number of people out in the field doing this work, and they're seeing the same stuff. They're seeing the orbs and the strange, the high strangeness that comes with this. I remember I had one guy, Chuck, firefighter, 4 decades. I talked to him on the phone at one point, and he told me, Mike, I used to watch your stuff, and Chuck was a fire chief in 4 different departments. He said, I used to watch your stuff until you got into the whole woo factor, and then he said no, he shut it off, and then he started. He was with the BFRO, so able to get some of the inside reports that don't get published publicly, and so he was, I guess, making visits to a location, and he realized that this stuff is real, and he was actually healed. He got a healing from them. They used to put an extra chair out for the Sasquatch to sit in, and you would see a distortion, looking towards that chair. I remember mentioning that. But after the conversation I had with him, it was easy to see he'd gone from just complete disbelief to personal experience and knowing that, this stuff is very real. And there's a lot of people. There's a growing number of people out there that are they're getting the same. They're starting to realize that this stuff is very real.
Yep, I like to say it. There's going to come a point where the table's going to turn, and the people who believe are no longer going to be the crazy ones. It's going to be the people who don't believe. They're going to be the crazy ones, because when you have a preponderance of evidence over the course of years and years and years, you have solid scientific data. You have DNA, pictures, vocalizations, eyewitness accounts, all these things. At some point, this community is going to go, "We told you so. We told you so."
People get convicted for murder for much less than what has been shown for the existence of Sasquatch.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Whatever. I could get into. I could go on a rant, but I'm not going to. Yes, you're right. People have been convicted of murder for much less evidence, and that right there tells the tale. That's really should make anybody out there wake up and realize that these things are real. They're out there. They're everywhere. What do you think the numbers are? You got any idea about population? And then we'll get out of here in a minute. But do you have any idea about what you think the population of these things are?
I asked them once. I said, how many? I can't remember how I worded it, but I think they give me a comical answer. I'd ask how many of them there are, basically, in my question, and they had written on my sketch pad. They wrote 10,000. So I don't know, man. They have. It seems there's a lot of kids involved, so I think their numbers are quite high.
Yeah, that's what I think. I believe that they're probably much higher than a lot of people think. The common numbers that I've heard are, there's 2,000 in the United States, or there's 5,000 in the United States. For me, I can't accept that that's accurate when you think about just how long they've been here, on the planet, and how remaining hidden, being able to procreate and have families, and all these things for so long. There's got to be more than that. My cat is trying to.
Sorry, I believe there's a couple of kids. I believe there's a couple of kids that have been born into Neff's family throughout past 10 years that we've been involved.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. In just a couple of years, you had a couple born in, and more and more people are seeing these things with children, with babies, or they're finding small little footprints and little handprints, and that was something that really wasn't seen or talked about years ago. And I'm sure they were there, but probably in much smaller numbers. That's my point, is that there's probably way more than we think.
Yeah.
Just looking at some people's, just looking at people's evidence, like, you can hear multiples. You said his family has a dozen or more.
No, I don't know how many. I'd say there's at least a half a dozen. There's more than that. There's more than that, though, just from the names that we've been given. So, yeah, it's hard to say.
But still, that's a good. That half a dozen is that's a large family for a human, right? 6 people. That's a big family.
Could be 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I think I have 7 names, but I think there's more. Like, we haven't gotten the big guy's name, so there might be 8 or 9 in the family, maybe.
How big is the big guy?
Well, his foot is 21 inches, and he showed himself back on February the 9th, 2013. Dwayne and I were on another part of the property. His girlfriend was inside the cottage, and she was basically she was given a visual. It might have been a couple 100 feet from the cottage. It was, the middle of winter, so no leaves on the trees, and she photographed him from inside the cottage. So sadly, it was just some crappy little camera, very small little point and shoot, and it locked onto the screen. I went back the next week. We didn't go up there to where it happened, to where he showed himself. I said, let's not go up there just out of respect, right? To look for footprints and stuff. And I remember there was she said there was a neighbor who was plowing, because, there's other cottages up there, right? But some people live up there all year round. Throughout the winter, most of the cottages are shut down. There's still winterized ones. But anyway, so he showed himself to her. Well, Dwayne and I were on another part of the property, and she took the photo. It's not a clear shot, but so we didn't go up and check out the prints out of respect. So we went back the week later, and I recreated the photo. The only difference, I put I had a good camera, put that up to the screen to make the screen disappear, and tried to line it up as best as I could. So it put him, she said he was hunched. So in that photo, he's roughly 11 feet tall in comparison to me. So he's probably 12 feet, 21-inch foot. Neph is probably, I've had a drawing given showing the difference between myself, Dwayne, and Neph, and they drew Dwayne just slightly taller than I am, which he is, so that, they've made it as close as they could, and Neph just towers over us. So he's probably up around the 8-foot mark, I would think. I've documented 4 inches of growth on his foot over the years. It's probably closer to 6 inches more now at this point. I'm hoping that this winter I get a good some good prints from him. So being able to document growth on his foot, it's just been fantastic as well, right? So
yeah, I was going to say that's got to be so neat to be able to see that through over the course of the years, to watch him grow like that.
And then there's been other prints too, bigger than Neff's. So I think bigger brother, older bigger brother. Neff would be a 20. I think he's 28 this year. Because I got his age.
Do they give you?
When this started,
sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, when this started, he was 17 years old with that voice. Most of those vocals, 17, 18, 19 years old, in that range, given most of the vocalizations. So it's been 10 years now. So he's probably 28.
Wow. Do they give you an age range, like how long they live? They ever told you that?
Yeah, I asked that question too. So when I asked about his age, they first wrote. I saw that they had written. I think it was the number 48 and rubbed it out, and then put. There's 25 at the time when I got the answer for that. So I could tell that, okay, they don't look at time the same as we do, right? They're figuring it out from a human perspective, right? So I asked them a question. Sometimes I get a response, sometimes I don't. This was written. I'll ask the question out loud. I'll write it down as well. And I'd asked, how long do your people live in human years? And they didn't respond. So then I reworded it, and I asked, do your people live longer than 200 human years? And they wrote yes. I tried to up the numbers and continue that, 300, 500. I got no response. So they wrote that yes, longer than 200 human years.
Yeah, that my belief.
It could be 1,000, right? I don't know.
Right.
Just longer than 2.
My belief was that they definitely lived longer than us. People make the argument that because of the lifestyle that they live, or they live in the woods in these harsh conditions and all that stuff, that they probably don't live. They probably live much shorter lives than we do. And I always felt like that. There's no way. I felt like they had to be here longer than us, have lifespans that were longer than ours, and well, that pretty much sums it up for me. I don't need to look for any more answers there, because I believe it. I totally believe it.
I think too, they're also the energies that they have an understanding of. So light energy is healing energy, right? Loving
right.
light energy. So I'm sure they utilize that to
Sure.
whatever extent.
Sure. Yeah.
Which would help extend life.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, those connections. There's probably so much that to them that are beneficial, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically. And they have those connections and to everything around them. So it's who knows how long they can live. Like you said, could be 500 years, could be 1,000. Who the hell knows? I'd love to know. Hopefully one day.
Apparently too, just to say that this invisibility, apparently we can do that too. We can do what they can do.
I believe
we just
it.
Don't know how.
I believe it. We only use a small portion of our brain, right? If we could use the full thing, the ideas of what we could possibly do are pretty crazy. Some people hypothesize that we'd be able to fly. Some people hypothesize, obviously you could use telekinesis, and you could move objects with your mind and all that stuff. And some people can do that already. So it doesn't surprise me to hear, that type of stuff at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, it's been an hour and 50 minutes. Feels like it's been 15 minutes to me. I'm going to end this because at 2 hours, they will not let me post this to YouTube, even though I pay for the service. If I go 2 hours and 1 minute, I can't post this video. StreamYard won't allow me.
Sorry to interrupt. If you want, I'll send you a few pictures if you want to input them into this and some audio.
I would love that.
Okay, I'll send you a few files and you can add that stuff.
I would love that. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm sure the viewers would go nuts for it. So, Mike, I just want to say thank you. It's been so amazing to be able to talk to you, even though I was kind of a nervous wreck for about at least half of this.
You're fine. It's all good, man. My pleasure. It's all good.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Truly, this was amazing for me. I hope that the people out there, I hope my subscribers and my viewers and the people of I like to call it our family. I hope that they can have an open mind when it comes to this stuff, because it's important. It's really important. Yeah. Well, I'd love to have you back on another time to discuss, ongoing activity and just keep rubbing it in people's faces, because I don't mind doing that.
No, I will.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. And everybody, I'll catch you on the next one. You guys have a good night.